Piano-Play-It.com.
Hi, welcome back to another free piano lesson by Piano-Play-It.com. This is David here, and today we're going to talk about 7th chords, which are also called dominant chords. Why are dominant chords called so? Because they are so dominant, they have so much tension in them that you must go to the tonic, which is the root chord. I'm going to show you by the piano how this works, and everything is going to be clear. So let's start. Okay, so I'm going to start explaining you how you make a 7th chord bluntly, and then I'm going to explain what is the function of the 7th chord for those of you who have some knowledge in piano theory. Okay, so let's take a G chord. That's a major chord, right? So in order to build a G chord, you took a major third plus a minor third, and then you have the chord. In order to create a 7th chord, you have to climb an extra small third, so from D, 1.5 tone, 1.5, and then you get a 7th chord. That's G7. Listen to the sound of it. It has a lot of tension, right? It wants to solve somewhere. Okay, it wants to solve to a C chord, a C major chord, and we're going to talk about it in a moment, why it is so the G7 necessarily wants to go to C. Okay, so if you take an A7 chord, so I have a major third and a minor third, and you add 1.5 above the E, you get a G. Okay, so A7 also have a lot of tension. It wants to go to D. Now, an easy way to find a 7th chord if you're looking for it and you don't want to look for minor, major, or third is to create, for example, a major chord, to add the root note of the major chord, so in our case it's G above, and then to go a whole tone below, so G, to go one tone down, and then you get the same chord. So if you have a B chord, for example, you add the root above, B in our case, and then you go a whole tone down. Okay, so that's B7. So that's basically what a 7th chord, a major 7th chord, is all about. Now let's understand the function of a 7th chord. If I take a C major scale, those of you who have followed the piano theory course know that you can have a family of chords that belong to a certain scale. So the first chord in the family that belongs to a C major scale is a C major chord. Why? Because I take the scale and I build the root note, I skip and I'm moving thirds through the scale, and then I have C major. The second degree would be D minor, right? Because I go along the scale. The third would be E minor, and so on. Okay, so now I move to G. G is the 5th chord degree in a C major scale, and it has a really important function. C major, the 1st chord degree of a scale, it's the most relaxing chord in a scale. It's the chord you want to go to and the beginning point mostly in a scale. So if you have some piano pieces and they are built upon a C major scale, they'll probably start with a C major scale and probably also will end up with a C major scale. That's the 1st chord degree, and it's called the tonic. Okay? The 5th chord degree, so start taking G major, which is the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 5th chord degree is called the dominant. Why is that? Let's have a look at the C major scale. C major scale is built out of 5 tones and 2 semitones. So 1, this is the 2nd tone, and now you have a semitone from F to E. The next semitone, because this is a whole tone, the next semitone would be from B to C. Okay, let me tell you something. When you have semitones in a scale, it means that the progression from a certain note to the other has more tension. So the 7th note in a C major scale going to the 1st is called the leading tone because it contains a lot of tension towards the C, towards the tonic. So this is the part in a scale that has most tension. The next one would be F going to E. Okay, so B is moving towards C up, but F is moving towards E down. Okay, that's a lot of tension in these areas. So remember F and B. Okay, So when you have the 5th degree in a C major scale, the chord, so G is the 5th chord degree, but B has to move to the next chord in half a tone, because if you're speaking about a scale, it has a lot of tension towards the next chord. So probably the next chord would be a sort of something with a C. Okay? Now D, you see D? D is also a quite tense note in a C major scale. If C, E and G, which are existing in a C major scale, are the relaxed notes, the other notes would be tension notes. So D and F are definitely included, also B, and also sometimes A. A somewhere in the middle, but we're not going to talk about it. So actually when you're playing a 5th chord degree in a C major scale, so you have G, B and D. B and D are both tense notes that are going to relaxed notes. So B is moving to C and D is moving to E. Two tense notes going to relaxed notes, and therefore G major is going to C in a C major scale. Okay? The G is a passive note. It stays within both chords. Okay? Okay, but you can tell me now, hey, but G major is also the root note in a G major scale, right? If you take a G major scale, G is the root note. So how am I going to know for sure that G is functioning as a dominant chord in a C major scale? And remember the two notes I spoke about before? So what you can do is add the F note to the G major chord. So you already know that this is a major 7th chord. And what do you do by then? The B goes to C by half a tone, by a semitone, and the F goes to E by a semitone as well, but this time from down, right? Remember, in a C major scale, F to E has a semitone. By adding the 7th note to a certain chord, you're actually saying this is not any G chord, it's a 7th chord, a dominant 7th chord. So dude, you have to go to the tonic without any doubt, because I have a B going to C and an F going to E. It's a must-have within the scale. It's two semitones leading to a relaxed note within the scale, and that's the function of a 7th chord. So if I now add the bass, G is the 5th degree within a C major scale. I play a 7th major 7th chord in the right hand, and it will have to solve a 5th below. So I have to go 5 notes down within the bass. This is the 5th degree leading to the 1st degree. So G7 has to go to a C major chord. So remember we played A7 chord? So I play the major, I add the 7th, and now I know that this is a major 7th, so the 5th degree within which scale? So A7th has to go to a D major. Why? Because it's the 5th degree within a D major scale. Okay, so if you play a 7th chord and you're not sure what the scale is, all you have to do is take 1, 2, 3.5 tones, and then you go a 5th below. You already figure which is the scale. Okay, so we saw the dominant chords, the 5th degree in a scale, create more tension when you add the 7th note of the chord, which is basically the 4th note going to the 3rd in a certain scale. By adding the 7th note, you're actually saying this is not just a 5th chord, this is a 5th chord with an extra tension that must go to the tonic. So it's the most tenseful chord, it's the most tensed chord you're going to find in a certain scale. This will help us later to play 3-chord songs by understanding the function of the chord. Then we'll know how to place them in a certain song correctly. So right now let's move to the next piano lesson, and I'll see you there. Bye guys!
Piano-Play-It.Com